Hi, folks. Chocolate Yoddah here, spelled Yoddah, because film studios are litigious. And this is my second live. I unfortunately can't have guests until I do 3 lives. So it'll just be me prattling along for at least 30 minutes. So we have G.H. Stratton just joined. Hello. I suppose that the most obvious thing to talk about these days is the rather bizarre political race known as the presidential election in America 2024. If you've seen any of my posts, I have a lot to say about this. I am neither a Democrat nor a Republican. I am just someone who wants to see everything as okay as possible. You know, I don't consider myself a patriot because I don't like what patriotism does to people. I assume there are aspects. Oh, I forgot to turn my ringer off. Isn't that something? Look at that. Look at that. Broadcasting 101. Turn your ringer off. Hello to everyone that's joining. So, as I was saying, I'm neither a Democrat nor a Republican. I'm an independent. And even that title is kind of blah, like it's kind of unsatisfying because it really doesn't tell the whole story. I'm not undecided. It's clear, based on 3.5 years of performance evaluation, that President Biden is much better at his job than Donnie Dump ever could be. I find it sad, at the very least, sad, that the criminal who was convicted on 34 counts of essentially, election interference and, business records, falsifying business records, and he keeps saying, I never had sex with Stormy Daniels. And it's like, why'd you pay her $130,000 then? Why in the world would someone pay $130,000 to someone to keep their silence over not doing something? That's insane. That's absolutely insane. It's the same kind of insanity that saying, I don't know anything about Project 2025. I have no idea who's involved in that, but I disagree with a lot of what's in it. Okay, for starters, that's not how words work. You're contradicting yourself immediately, but just a thumbnail scratch beneath the surface of that nonsense, you see that it's obvious that he knows everything about Project 2025, including almost everyone involved with it, because almost everyone involved with it was part of his administration. All those best people that as soon as they quit, he says they're the worst. Oh, man, you could go on for days about what an idiot this guy is. And by the way, I'm doing this on low quality because the first time I did it, I had the video setting at 720 and it was like buffering and stuff. So hopefully it's a little bit better. But oh, I have a message. It says, encourage your viewers to share your live and invite more friends. Yes, viewers, share my live and invite more friends, please. I've really been spending a lot of time on TikTok for the last few months. I know, like any social media, it can be the Wild West. But I think that this is where the most important conversations are being had. And I think the way they're being had is ideal. You have, especially with lives, which is why I want to hurry up and complete 3 lives that I have to do on 3 separate days, is because then after that I can invite guests. And because I want to have conversations with people, especially the people that disagree, especially the people that, have these snarky comments to my posts about, Joe Biden or Democrats. They all assume I'm Democrat because I attack Donnie Dump. It's like, no, I'm a sensible human being that doesn't believe that an ex-con should be president. That's all it is. It's got nothing to do with whether you have a D or an R next to your name on the ticket. Like, I just care about, not common sense, because there's no such thing as common sense in my opinion. I just care about sense. I care about results. And the only way that I can see a Dump supporter continuing to support him is that they literally have to ignore the results that he got. Thought I had a timer going. There we go. You have to ignore because think about it. When you hear them talk, when you hear any Dump supporter talk, they never talk about his policies. And if they say he did a great job, all you got to do is ask them to give you one example. I know people say you can't change somebody else's mind. That's not true. Everything I've learned about psychology says that you can. And in fact, the opinion that these people have is proof that you can create an opinion in someone no matter how nonsensical it is. And maybe I'll delve into that a little bit, or maybe a lot of bit. Propaganda. People are always like saying things like, oh, I can't believe these people think this way. I can't believe MAGA hats act this way. And I call them MAGA hats because if you say MAGA hats really fast, it sounds like maggot. I'm so clever. Let's see. Looks like Kept Fuzzy. I hope I'm saying that right. Kept Fuzzy 81. Exactly. I'm not a Democrat either, but they all think, yeah, I totally feel you. Oh, yeah. Thank you. So, how do people get to this place where they look at Donnie Dump and say, yeah, that's my guy? And they don't, when they talk about him, you can tell that they're not talking about politics. Their enthusiasm and fervor for him has nothing to do with politics, because if it was based on politics, he's clearly a terrible candidate. He was an unknown in 2016 to a lot of the country. I'm a New Yorker. I knew what a piece of garbage he was and is. That's why I call him Dump. And, the only reason he was even viable in 2016 is because he had a long run on the TV show The Apprentice, and America is very much into celebrity worship. That's why people were talking about, oh, let's have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson run for president. I'm like, when are you going to learn your lesson about celebrities? It's like, celebrities aren't inherently bad, but that just because you like someone doesn't mean they should run America. This is not a learn on the job kind of job. It's another thing that bothered me in 2016 when people were saying, well, Dump might grow into the job. It's not that kind of job. The reason why Biden has been so successful at implementing policies that actually help America and Americans is that he knows what he's doing. When he was elected, he had roughly 46, 47 years in politics. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to maneuver through the very difficult waters of the political spectrum. It's probably a mixed metaphor, but sorry about that. Anyway, so you have this guy who was a popular celebrity, but to anyone that actually knew him was a train wreck. I mean, he was just a garbage human being. We all knew this. If anyone in the New York area, right? New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, the people closest to him, they all knew he was garbage. They all knew how he stiffed workers and how he stiffed contractors. I've personally met 3 men over a 30-year period who all did work for him and all were stiffed. They told the same exact story. We did the job, he refused to pay, and he told us that his lawyers would keep them in court for the rest of their lives. All 3 men who didn't know each other over a 30-year span told me the exact same story. Once meaningless, twice a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. The guy's garbage, okay? And he's a failure in business. Almost everything he's ever touched was a disaster. Luckily, he has the golf courses. They make him a lot of money, over $100 million a year. Aside from those properties, almost everything he's ever done has failed. As a matter of fact, if you look on I think it's the SEC public filing that a company has to make when they go public, Dump's own auditors said that they have serious doubt over the viability of Truth Social because it just keeps losing money. Like if you actually run the numbers on Truth Social, and I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place, but I'm trying to illustrate what a moron Dump is. If you run the numbers on Truth Social, it's actually a penny stock. If you look at the total number of shares and the actual numbers in terms of revenue generated, first quarter was 700,000. That's a Burger King does 700,000 in a quarter. All right, you're supposed to be this huge media platform, and in the first quarter, not only did you only post 700,000 plus in revenue, but you lost $323 million first quarter. So that stock is worthless, but it's a giant pump and dump scheme. When he finally cashes out, which I think he's allowed to do in September, he's going to wipe out every investor. So all of his supporters that were willing to buy this stock they're going to lose all their money. Some of them already have. The silver lining there is that there will be at least one class action suit after the fact. And so, even though Dump is very good at tying up the courts, all the money he makes is going to go back to the investors because it's all illegal. What he's doing is illegal, allegedly, right? So, despite all of his failures, I mean, he lost money at casinos. Who loses money with casinos? He tried to sell steaks through the Sharper Image catalog, a home electronics store, and he tried to sell steak through that. And you want to know how terrible a business Trump's steak was? It launched and failed in 2 months. That's how bad of a business person he is. He lost the Plaza Hotel, New York City's premier hotel. I stayed there one night, the night I proposed to my second ex-wife. That's right, I've got 2. If I get 3, I get steak knives, so I'm still working on that. I'm looking forward to meeting my 3rd ex-wife. So I stayed there in May of 2000, and it was $545 for one night. Okay. Premier hotel. And this dude went bankrupt and got the hotel repossessed. I mean, you can just name it. You can go down a long list. There's at least a dozen companies on this public filing that shows just this pattern of opening a business and having it go under. Sometimes they lasted for a few years, but inevitably they went under because he doesn't know anything about business. These people that assume his wealth came from him are completely uninformed. This is a guy that just got shot out of the right testicles. He was born into a wealthy family. His father was the real business genius, okay, with all his flaws, all his, ties to supremacy and all that stuff. His father was a brilliant business person. His father left his family 22,000 rental units, $400 million in cash, and just as importantly as the money and the properties, relationships with politicians and judges. Okay, because that's how wealthy people roll. Okay, so this was handed to Donnie Dump and the rest of his siblings, and that, Donnie, all he ever had to do actually is nothing. If he had done nothing, his net worth would be really, really high right now. It would be, I would say, roughly 15 to 20 billion. If you take what their father left them and just, put it in very safe interest-bearing accounts and all this stuff, someone did the math on it, and it would be somewhere in the 15 to 20 billion range what he would be worth if he had just done nothing. So because of his ego, he wanted to be a wheeler and dealer. He wanted to be a business person, but he never had the skill for it. And the only thing he has the skill for, sort of, is cheating. He's very good at cheating. And lately he's been getting caught, but for a long time, he was just a local guy, only known in New York circles, and he was getting along just fine with all of his schemes and all of his illegality. And by the way, even though he was only convicted once so far in criminal court, he's lost over and over and over again, especially the last 3 years. He keeps losing in civil court. And he doesn't just lose when he's the plaintiff. He loses when he's the defendant, or maybe I should have said that in reverse. He doesn't just lose when he's the defendant, which he has been many, many times in civil court, but when he's the plaintiff, he loses also, because A, he's a liar and he gets caught, and B, he's got a terrible legal team. So he's just a loser, right? And even though he's been really, really good at maneuvering the courts to delay and delay and delay, that's all it is. It's just a delay. It's not going to get him off. On most of these counts, he's still going to be found guilty, I assume. I'm not a lawyer, but I play one in my mother's disappointed dreams. But when I've looked at what's gone on over the last 2 years legally for him, I really don't see, even with the immense help he just got with this through the Supreme Court, he is not going to get off of all of these charges. Because, when you take someone to court, it's rare that you just hit them with one charge. He's got multiple charges on him. And so, yeah, the Supreme Court protected him from some of the charges, really one in particular. But aside from the interfering, and by the way, he still might get hit with the interfering with an official process or procedure, whatever that's called, because the stipulation that they made about dropping that charge has to do with the only way you could charge it is if you have documents involved. And the fake electors includes documents. So he's not going to get off on that charge either. So again, he's got a lot of issues. He's got a lot of issues. So having said all that, that sets the stage to answer the question, why do so many people support him? I mean, I don't think he has enough supporters because he didn't have enough supporters in 2020. So I don't see why anyone thinks he's going to have this immense level of support now. I think he's lost a lot of steam. I think he's lost supporters in lots of different ways. Small donors, large donors, people that say they voted for him twice, but they'll never vote for him again. He's lost supporters. So I don't see how he's going to bridge the gap that he had in 2020, which is over 7 million votes. I don't see the math of how he's going to win. I mean, I know the Electoral College is funky and it enables losers to win, but I think that the spread is too big for him to be successful. So why do so many people support him? Well, it comes back to propaganda. It's a word that gets thrown out a lot, but I don't think most people have ever really looked into what propaganda is, how it works, why it works, what were the beginnings of it. Propaganda has been around for a long time, and I'm talking probably thousands of years. But if you want to talk about America, propaganda really became a different thing in the 20s, right? So the person who basically introduced behavior modification, which is the psychological term for propaganda, the person who introduced that to America was Edward Bernays, or Bernays. Damn it, I always forget. I think it's Bernays. Edward Bernays, he was Sigmund Freud's nephew. So he came from, the royal family of psychologists, right? Pardon me one moment. And Edward Bernays came to prominence in America right around the time of Woodrow Wilson. So we're talking about late teens, early 20s in the 20th century, right? So Woodrow Wilson hires him for what he called reputation management, which now is called, what is it called? Press something? It'll come to me. Anyway, he hires Bernays to help communicate with the public better. Public relations. I knew it would come to me. Edward Bernays is nicknamed the father of public relations or something like that. He was a very popular guy. As a matter of fact, David Letterman had him on as a guest in the 80s. That's how prominent a man he was. And what Edward taught us is that there's this weird brain hack that has to do with repetition. If I were to explain behavior modification, or, well, let's say propaganda. If I were to explain propaganda to you as succinctly as possible, I would say, I'm going to lie to you until you believe me. Now, that sounds absurd, but that's exactly what it is. A lie repeated consistently, confidently, and unerringly will eventually be adapted by someone or some group of someone's, right? So when you see a message like fake news, first it was only Dump saying that. Now his supporters say that as well. Now you hear that all the time, fake news, fake news. I mean, he actually has a point, although the point he's making is extreme, but there is a kernel of truth to what he's saying. That's as much credit as I can give him for that. But yeah, I mean, that's another conversation, the news media. Maybe I'll talk about that next time. But journalism, we really miss you. But propaganda is a brain hack that enables a false message, a message that is not true, a lie, to become true, right? It starts off as a lie and it ends up as a lie. But if you say it enough times, some people will believe it's true. It's wild. I don't have that kind of brain, so it doesn't work on me. I mean, I'll get caught up in some things now and then. You hear, you see fireworks and you hear the Star Spangled Banner. You've been programmed to react to that. So, but I catch myself. I guess that's my only advantage, is that I know it's happening. So even if it does happen, I can catch myself. But it is, in my opinion, the most powerful communication tool in the world. There's nothing more powerful than propaganda. And the sad thing is that even though we know that it makes no sense for propaganda to work, it does. That's the crazy part. That to me is the saddest reality of propaganda, is that it's ridiculous, it makes no sense, and it works. And it works, I would say, essentially all the time. The right practitioner will get you every time with propaganda. And as dumb, and I mean painfully dumb, as Donnie Dump is, Donnie J. Dump, I think the J stands for Jagoff, but I'm going to look into that. As painfully stupid and idiotic as he is, he does one thing right, and that is stick to the message no matter what. Stick to the message no matter what. And eventually, some people believe his message. There's just no way around it. You see them, like, if you ever sit through the horror of listening to Dump supporters, it is really painful. It's uncomfortable. You can see that they have nothing behind the words that they're saying. And I want to be clear. I don't think they're bad people. I don't think they're stupid people. Although the lower your IQ is, the more susceptible you are to propaganda. But I'm going to assume that everyone votes because they just think it's the right thing to do, right? I think that's a fair assumption, because ultimately, what else is it? You vote for a candidate because you believe that the candidate is the best candidate, right? So that's not evil. That's not, I don't want to vilify Dump supporters, right? But once you ask them a question about the support that they are very enthusiastic about expressing, you see that it all falls apart. They have no answers. Like, the economy. Well, the economy was terrible even before COVID. Dump's first 3 years in office, the economy was terrible. There's no debating that. Okay, that is a fact, right? America was this and that, whatever they say, it's just not true, right? But they're repeating the propaganda. They're repeating the talking points. And I'll give you an example of this, and then I'll wrap it up. I met a woman last year, right when the Canadian wildfires were happening. For those in America, it was a very bizarre thing. I don't know how far this went, but where I am is roughly 650 miles from where the wildfires were taking place. And not only did I smell the smoke of these fires, but my car and just about everything else was covered in the orange soot that this smoke produced. Now, I'm 60 years old. I never remember either of those things ever happening before. Smelling smoke from 650 miles away, seeing the soot cover everything from that fire, that was bizarre and insane to me. And I mentioned this to this woman. I didn't know her. It was just a passing conversation. And she said, climate change ain't real. Now, even though I was repulsed by what she said, it was silly of me to be surprised at all, because I'm going to be a little judgmental here. She looked like a mullet sprung to life, right? So what did I expect to hear out of her mouth, right? But you can't judge a book by its cover, right? So, and I don't like to shut people down in conversation. I've been a professional communicator for 40 years now, so I never want to just tell someone, oh, you're wrong or you're stupid or whatever. I want to ask, how'd you come to this conclusion? So I asked her a question that I thought was really simple. After such a brazen statement, said so confidently, climate change ain't real, I was like, let me ask the most obvious question and spark up a conversation. So I asked her, what do you mean? And she had nothing. She had absolutely nothing. She froze up. She got tongue-tied. And I realized, right, and I got off, I let her off the hook. I moved on. But what I realized immediately is that is an example of how propaganda works. You don't need substance. You don't need understanding. You just need to be able to repeat the message that you heard, right? So she heard that message. Either Sean Hannity or Tucker the fucker Carlson or any one of the, OAN, Fox, or whatever it is, all of these networks that are just pure propaganda. She heard that somewhere from one of them. Because look, again, I'm not a climate scientist, so I rely on climate scientists, and 97% of them agree that this is a thing and we're the cause of it. End of debate, okay? So when I say climate change is obviously real, I can cite chapter and verse of the things that I've read from the scientists who study this. These are not my thoughts that I'm regurgitating. I am repeating someone else's thoughts, but I'm repeating an expert's thoughts. And I have them. I can enumerate them and lay them out for you so that I can support my argument that climate change is real. She couldn't do that. She couldn't do that because she didn't have anything except the words that she heard. And that's the sad part about propaganda, is that you have these people that are very uninformed, just running around saying the wildest things and having no substance behind what they're saying. And it's the people that understand what reality is that are left to be frustrated by people like that. And that's the typical dump supporter. They have no answers. They can't explain to you why they support him. I can tell you very easily why I voted for Biden in 2020 and why I'm going to vote for him again. I'm not going to bore you with that now, but there are reasons. And I think there are good reasons. And hey, someone can disagree with me on the reasons, but if you disagree, tell me what your idea is. Tell me why I'm wrong. I've had my mind changed about things before because I'm a reasonable human being. If your idea is better than mine, I'll adopt your idea. No big deal. I don't have any ego associated with the sounds that come into my head. These are just thoughts. Okay? I think a thought, I spew it out of my big fat face, and it's either good, bad, right, wrong, whatever. And sometimes I'll be very confident about a thought that's spilled out of my head, and someone will come along and say, wait, but have you thought about this? And I go, oh, damn, no, I didn't think about that. You're right. That's what reasonable human beings do. Okay. So I think I've blathered on long enough for now. I want to thank everyone that joined. Let's see. A few people came on, a few comments here and there. So more than likely tomorrow at some point, I don't know when, but at some point tomorrow I'll do a third one. And then after that, I can actually have guests. I'm looking forward to that. I know it could be brutal, but that's okay. I ain't afraid of you. All right, folks. That's it for now. Let's see. How do I end this? Oh, swipe left to close. Okay, that's a different thing. Okay, it's this button over here. All right. Peace, love, and granola. Bye, everybody.